It is April 13th, 1944. Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final. The Montreal Forum holds its breath. Montreal and Chicago are tied 4-4, and overtime has stretched the night thin. A veteran forward drifts into the slot, the space in front of the net where goals are decided. The puck arrives. He snaps a shot. Everything stops. 9 minutes and 12 seconds into overtime, the puck is in. The Forum breaks from silence into sound, and the cup is decided. Then the lamp turns red. Montreal defeats the Chicago Blackhawks 5-4 in overtime and completes a 4-game sweep to win the Stanley Cup. Before that winner, he had already piled up 4 assists, steering the game without ever owning the spotlight. Fans remember the louder myths. They remember fights, bravado, names that demanded attention. This man lived on timing and discipline. Some called him the lamplighter because the goal light seemed to answer his presence. And the twist is simple. His playing career ended early, but he came back behind the bench and won even more. So who was he? How does someone win 11 Stanley Cups and still become a name few people mention today? The man was Toe Blake. He did not come from a glittering hockey factory. He came from Northern Ontario, from a small mining community called Victoria Mines, where winter is not a season, but a condition. When the ice set, the game was simple. You learned to keep your balance, protect the puck, and play through cold that stung your hands even inside your gloves. Money and comfort were not the point. The point was repetition. Skating until your legs burned. Shooting until the blade felt like part of your wrist. Listening to older players who taught you the unspoken rules: stay on your feet, take the hit, make the next play anyway. That early environment shaped his personality. Quiet, direct, and stubborn in the best sense. Even his nickname carried the feel of childhood. His family called him Toe after a younger sister struggled to pronounce his name, and the sound stuck. It followed him as he grew from a local kid into a junior star, one of the best in the Sudbury system, where talent had to earn respect. In 1932, he helped the Sudbury Cub Wolves win the Memorial Cup, the national junior championship in Canada. For many players, that would have been the peak of a good local story. For him, it was only proof that he could handle pressure, that he could lead without speeches, and that he could win when the stakes were real. The rinks were rough, the boards hard, and every shift was a lesson. If you wanted a future, you learned early reliability. After junior success, he stepped into professional hockey and learned the first hard truth. Talent is not enough when every opponent is older, stronger, and playing for his own survival. The ice was faster, the checks came earlier, and mistakes did not feel like lessons. They felt like warnings. He did not arrive as a headline. He arrived as a worker. A winger who could be trusted to stay in structure, protect the puck along the boards, and make the right play when a shift began to break down. Coaches noticed that kind of player long before fans do. In 1935, he found himself on a team that would win the Stanley Cup. The Montreal Maroons were built for playoff hockey, heavy and disciplined, and he was young enough to learn what winning really costs. It was not glamour, it was details. It was the willingness to repeat the same difficult plays until they became automatic. Then came the move that defined the rest of his life. He joined the Montreal Canadiens and began climbing from useful to essential. His game fit the city, direct, demanding, and serious about results. He did not chase attention. He chased the next shift, the next point in the standings, the next chance to prove he belonged. There were seasons when he blended into the crowd of good players. Then, slowly, he became the one coaches leaned on when the game tightened, the one teammates looked for when the puck had to be moved out cleanly, the one who could turn pressure into order. By the time the league truly noticed him, he was no longer arriving. He was already there. For years, he had been valuable in quiet ways. Then the league was forced to name what Montreal already knew. In the season of 1938 to 1939, he did not simply play well, he carried games. Some nights, he owned them. He finished first in NHL scoring with 47 points and earned the Hart Trophy as the league most valuable player. In an era when goals were guarded like secrets, he kept finding the space that mattered. Not the loud, wide-open ice, but the hard ice, the ice in front of the net. The slot is a small area between the face-off circles, a place where the puck arrives and decisions must be instant. He lived there without fear. His touch was not about brute force, it was timing, a quick release, and the ability to turn a broken play into a clean chance. One stride to separate, one look to read the defender, one shot before the goaltender could set his feet. The scoreboard did the talking he never chased. People began to notice the pattern. When the game tightened, he was still calm. When the night demanded a goal, he did not rush it. The red light seemed to answer him so often that the nickname made sense. The Lamplighter. That season changed the way his teammates leaned on him. It changed the way opponents treated his line. And it changed the way history would be written, because now he was no longer a reliable winger who happened to win. He was a star, built for the moments that decide everything. At his peak, he was not just producing points. He was shaping the rhythm of games. Montreal had talent, but talent alone does not win in spring. What wins is control. Control of space, control of time, control of the puck when the ice feels smaller, and every touch matters. He became the steady edge of a famous trio, the punchline with Elmer Locke and Maurice Richard. The name sounded playful, but the hockey was not. Their shifts were built on pressure with purpose. They would win one battle along the boards, then immediately turn that win into a threat in front of the net. The most dangerous place is the slot, the space between the face-off circles in front of the goaltender, where shots come fast and rebounds die hard. He lived in that area without drifting, always arriving a half second before defenders could tie up his stick. What made him different was how little he wasted. He did not need a long carry to look impressive. He did not need a flashy deke to be remembered. He needed one clean read, one quick touch, and a wrist shot released before the goaltender could set. On nights when the game tightened, he became even simpler. He protected the puck, kept his feet under him, and kept the play moving toward the middle of the ice. In the playoffs of 1944, Montreal faced the Chicago Blackhawks, a team built to make games ugly and slow. The series became a test of patience. One mistake could swing a night. That was where he was most valuable. He could calm a shift that was breaking apart, then turn the next rush into a real chance. When Game 4 reached overtime, the building held its breath, because overtime is where reputations are earned. At 9 minutes and 12 seconds of overtime, he ended it. Montreal won 5-4, completed a 4-game sweep, and lifted the Stanley Cup. For most players, that is the greatest moment they ever touch. For him, it was the clearest proof of his identity. Not loud, not dramatic, just decisive. And the cruel part is that this was only one chapter. The peak as a player was real, but his story would soon demand a different kind of winning. Old-era hockey rewarded toughness, and he could play that way when it was required. But what separated him was not how hard he could hit, it was how completely he could control himself. By the mid-1940s, his game shifted into something rarer, edge without recklessness, intensity without waste. In the season of 1945 to 1946, he won the Lady Byng Trophy, an award for sportsmanship and skill. It was not a soft honor, it was proof of precision. That year, he spent almost no time in the penalty box because his stick stayed in the right lane and his feet stayed under him. He did not need cheap penalties to make a point. He made his point by staying on the ice, by taking the next shift, and by forcing opponents to chase him instead. Fans often remember wild emotion. His version of greatness was quieter. He reduced the game to decisions, then made fewer bad ones than anyone around him. In the middle of what should have been more prime seasons, the game took his career away in a single moment. On January 11, 1948, a violent collision left him with a broken ankle that he could not come back from. For a player whose value was built on balance, timing, and arriving a half-second early, the injury was not just pain. It was a limit placed on the very tools that made him special. There is a particular cruelty in that kind of ending. He was not fading because he forgot how to play. He was still trusted, still central, Still the man teammates leaned on when the ice tightened. Then suddenly, the door closed. No long goodbye. No slow decline that lets a crowd prepare its applause. Hockey often teaches players to accept hits and move on. This was different. This was the kind of break that changes a life, because it forces a question with no perfect answer. What happens when a champion cannot step onto the ice anymore? For most, that would be the end of the story. For him, it became the beginning of a harder way to win. When his skates could no longer carry him, he found another way to control the game. The same mind that lived in the slot and read pressure early began reading people, benches, and momentum. In June of 1955, he became the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. The timing mattered. The team had talent, but talent needs direction, especially in a city where every loss feels personal. Behind the bench, he was known for discipline and structure, not the kind that crushes creativity, but the kind that gives it a frame. Players knew what was expected on every shift. Lines had purpose. Defense moved the puck with clarity. The power play, the man advantage when the other team takes a penalty, became less about hope and more about routine execution. Then the championship stacked up. He won 8 Stanley Cups as a head coach. Combined with 3 as a player, his total reached 11. Very few people in the history of the NHL have stood at the center of that much winning, and still, the strange part remained. When fans name legends, they often reach first for the loudest stories, the outrageous personalities, the fights, the record chases that live on highlight reels. His greatness was different. It was repeatable. It was controlled. It did not demand attention, so attention eventually wandered elsewhere. He did have a life beyond the rink. In Montreal, he opened a tavern that carried his name, a local place where hockey talk felt normal and close. Later, he was recognized as a member of the Order of Canada, a national honor that acknowledged a life of impact. He died in Montreal in May of 1995, after years of illness. The numbers did not change. 11 Stanley Cups did not become smaller, only the noise around them faded. So if this story feels unfamiliar, that is the point. Some legends vanish not because they were lesser, but because they were too steady to be sensational. And that may be the most honest kind of greatness. Which NHL legend should we bring back next? The one you feel people talk about far too little today.